In ancient Greece, there were gods everyone knew, and gods only the initiated dared to face. These were the mystery cult's secret societies that promised salvation beyond the grave, but demanded absolute silence in return. Religion in the ancient world was public, civic, and political. Temples, sacrifices, and festivals honored the city more than the soul. But beneath that world lay another one of secrecy, initiation, and fear. A world obsessed with the afterlife. Among all these hidden sects, one stood above the rest, the Eleusinian mysteries, the secret rites of Demeter and Persephone. Every year, thousands marched through the night, carrying torches and chanting divine names, until they reached the great hall at Eleusis the Telesterion. Once they entered, they disappeared from history. No one ever revealed what they saw inside, not even under threat of death. Yet whatever happened there changed them forever. Ancient writers swear it erased the fear of dying. Some called it revelation, others called it madness. For 2,000 years, one question haunted the ancient world: what happened in Eleusis? If you want the full story, its secrets, and everything we know today, subscribe and join us as we uncover the mysteries. Mystery cults. Mystery cults, or mystery religions, were ancient religious associations characterized by secrecy and initiation rites. They typically surrounded one primary deity, but some mystery cults venerated multiple deities in their rites. Members of mystery cults were required to maintain the secrecy of the cult's rituals and knowledge, which added to the cult's prestige. Unlike many modern religions, mystery cults were not closed systems of faith. Initiation into a mystery cult did not entail forsaking all other gods, and initiates continued to participate in mainstream religious life. This made mystery cults a supplement to traditional Greco-Roman religious practices, as opposed to an alternative. Mystery cults fell out of fashion in late antiquity as Christianity became dominant. Some features of mystery cults parallel aspects of early Christianity, such as resurrection narratives, but these similarities are often exaggerated in popular history. Etymology and definition. Historians define mystery cults based on their shared features, such as secrecy and initiation rites, as well as the terminology used to describe them by ancient commentators. The Greek word for a mystery cult was mysterion. A person who joined a mysterion was a mysts, meaning an initiate. These words are of uncertain etymology. Some historians have speculated that these words may be related to the Greek verb mein, meaning to close. This could be a reference to closed lips, implying secrecy, or it could refer to closing one's eyes and opening them to enlightenment. Religion in the ancient Mediterranean was polytheistic, with people participating in rites honoring a multitude of gods. Collective religious activities, like festivals and temple rites, were a feature of public participation in civic life. Mystery cults had a more private nature, and their doctrines were often focused on the individual. Initiates took vows of secrecy upon entry into a mystery cult, which prevented outsiders from learning too much about its inner workings. The secrecy of these cults means that often little is known about their inner rites, doctrines, and development. Most mystery cults placed a heavy emphasis on personal salvation in their theological doctrines. This salvation could take the form of practical gifts like health, wealth, and safety, or spiritual gifts like a blissful afterlife. Some mystery cults became popular because it was believed that their deity was particularly responsive to prayers. In some mystery cults, this promise of salvation extended to the afterlife. These doctrines contrasted with the prevailing belief in a miserable afterlife for all except those who were deified in death. Origins and development. Historian Walter Burkert characterized the mystery cults as an experimental type of religion that drew from various pre-existing religious practices. The different mystery cults of antiquity did not all develop from a shared origin. Instead, they developed independently in regions such as Greece, Persia, Anatolia, and Egypt at different times and in different contexts. The practice of making vows to various gods in times of extremity, a basic aspect of ancient polytheistic religion, likely evolved into cultic initiations and rites based around vow-making. The earliest evidence for mystery cults comes from 6th century BCE Greece. Some of these early mystery cults, such as the Eleusinian mysteries, may have originated in agrarian festivals related to planting and harvesting. The symbolism and mythological cycles of many mystery cults strongly relate to fertility and the agricultural cycle of harvest and rebirth. All of them involve the death of divine figures, which usually resulted in resurrection or rebirth in some form. These stories acted out the cycle of life and death that ancient people witnessed in the natural world. Through participation in their own symbolic rebirth, initiates hoped to share the power of that cycle. Many mystery cults focused on mother goddesses and their consorts, such as the Roman Magna Mater Cybele, the Egyptian cult of Isis, the Eleusinian mysteries, Demeter and her daughter Kore, and the Andanian mysteries. These cults tended to emphasize the fertile, life-giving aspects of these deities. Male figures associated with these cults often had feminine characteristics, such as the self-castrated god Attis or the often feminine god Dionysus. Some other cults, most notably the Roman cult of Mithras, were organized around masculine deities. Cultic rites and initiation. Joining a mystery cult was a voluntary process, in which a person chose to undergo secret initiation rites in the hopes of attaining a higher level of spiritual awareness. Through this awareness, initiates hoped to achieve a closer relationship with a particular god. Initiation into mystery cults could take a variety of forms, but most required making some kind of vow and undergoing a sacred process. The Mithraic cult, which only permitted male members, required its initiates to undergo tests of courage and fortitude. Unlike the official religions, in which a person was expected to show outward, public allegiance to the local gods of the polis or the state, the mysteries emphasized an inwardness and privacy of worship within closed groups. The person who chose to be initiated joined an association of people united in their quest for personal salvation. Many cultic initiations involved the symbolic death and rebirth of participants. This was commonly represented by leaving initiates in darkness or blindfolding them, and then ritually bringing them into the light as part of their rebirth into enlightenment. Many cultic initiations also involved a ritual meal of bread and wine. Once initiated into the cult, members often had to adhere to lifestyle changes, like the vegetarianism prescribed by the Orphic Mysteries. Many cults also had specific attire for participants to wear during religious ceremonies, such as colorful parade clothing or simple linen clothing to represent purity. Within the cult, there were different levels of initiation. Most members were probably motivated to join for social reasons, drawn by the appeal of belonging to a group. Some mystery cults could also convey a sense of prestige upon their members, and others were very egalitarian, allowing people from different social classes to interact as equals. In addition to secret rites, many cults also hosted public ceremonies such as feasts and processions during religious festivals. These occasions often included entertainment such as singing, dancing, or theater. The processions of the Magna Mater and Isis were particularly famous for their size and spectacle. Particularly devoted members hoped to gain spiritual enlightenment through their participation in sacred rites. Purifying rituals often included bathing or periods of fasting and sexual abstinence. As in all ancient Mediterranean religions, animal sacrifices and other offerings played an important role in worship. Those who could afford to might also commission shrines and other monuments to honor the cult's central deities. Persecution. Mystery cults were often controversial in the ancient world on account of their secrecy and popularity. Some cults were also subversive of mainstream social mores, especially ones which permitted different social groups, like slaves and free people, to mingle freely. The Dionysian mysteries were frequently targeted both because its priestly leadership included men and women, and because its ceremonies were associated with wine drinking, ecstatic frenzy or ritual madness, and possibly sexual rites. This led to suspicion that the cult contributed to disorderly conduct, crime, and immorality. In ancient Rome, attitudes towards mystery cults of foreign origin were mixed. Some cults, like the Magna Mater, were readily assimilated into Roman culture as cornerstones of traditional religion. Others, like the Isiac cult, underwent cycles of tolerance and xenophobic persecution as social attitudes towards foreigners fluctuated. Rising intolerance towards foreign cults in the 1st century BCE did nothing to prevent them from becoming widespread, as citizens throughout the Roman Empire brought their gods with them. Relationship to Christianity. In the early 20th century, many historians began to suggest that Christianity borrowed elements from mystery cults, or that mystery cults competed with Christianity as emerging religions in late antiquity. Similarities between Christian rites and mystery cults were even noted by ancient authors, who speculated about a possible shared origin for them. Some Christian theologians, like Tertullian and Justin the Martyr, theorized that warped imitations of Christian rites had been introduced into mystery cults. Comparisons between Christianity and mystery cults are commonly made in modern pop historical treatments of religion. However, most similarities are actually superficial and relate to the shared cultural context in which they developed. The consumption of sacramental bread and wine as spiritual nourishment in mysteries like the Mithraic cult has been compared to the Eucharist, but it can be better explained by the significance of bread and wine in the Mediterranean diet. Similarly, the shared emphasis on brotherhood, redemption, and resurrection reflects broadly applicable social concerns. It is unlikely that the mystery cults directly influenced Christianity's theological development or popularity in the ancient Mediterranean. Historian Jan Bremer noted that in some cases, the inspiration actually went in the opposite direction. For example, the spread of the Gospels resulted in the proliferation of similar resurrection narratives in pagan Roman literature. The fact that initiation into the mysteries could be a costly affair, and that the Mithras cult was limited to males meant that pagan mysteries were no competition for Christianity on the religious market, as the latter always received young and old, rich and poor, male and female into its fold. Moreover, unlike the mysteries, Christianity was not esoteric but at first openly proclaimed its message, which was clear to all. Although Christianity's rise resulted in the disappearance of mystery cults, it is unlikely that a mystery cult could have taken Christianity's place. Unlike Christianity, these cults generally had a limited membership, and no mystery cult ever came close to being a dominant religion. Even the most egalitarian mystery cults did not approach the cross-societal appeal of Christianity. Additionally, Christianity was unique in that its adherents had to renounce all other gods and not participate in pagan rites. Eleusis. Eleusis was a deme of Athens and most famous for its annual festival of the mysteries in honor of Demeter and Persephone. The site was also an important fortress protecting Attica and held several other important festivals, notably the Thesmophoria, the subject and title of a comedy play by Aristophanes. The site continued to be an important religious center through Hellenistic and Roman times, when the site was significantly expanded, with monumental architecture being added by several Roman emperors. Eleusis in mythology. In Greek mythology, when Demeter was searching for her daughter Persephone, who had been abducted by Hades, she decided to rest from her weary quest at Eleusis. The daughters of the king, Celeus, offered to help the goddess who was disguised as an old woman. Recuperating in the royal palace, Demeter took a shine to Celeus' infant son Demophon, or Triptolemus, to whom she gave ambrosia, and each night in secret, she held the youth over a fire in order to make him immortal. Demophon's mother happened to see this one night and, misunderstanding the goddess' intentions, banished the old woman from the palace. Not best pleased, Demeter revealed her true identity and ordered Celeus to build her a temple. This was done, and the goddess retreated inside it and brought a terrible drought and famine upon the land, until the other Olympian gods revealed where Persephone was and agreed to release her from the underworld for half of the year. In thanks to Eleusis, the goddess blessed the land and taught the people sacred rites, so that the Eleusinians might thereafter prosper both morally and physically. And so the Eleusinian mysteries were born. Historical overview. Settlement around the bay and plain of Eleusis began in the Bronze Age, c. 1900 BCE, on the Thriasian Plain, specifically on the slopes of the East Hill in the southwest corner. From the 16th century BCE, the summit was inhabited, and in the 15th century BCE, a temple to Demeter was first built coinciding with the reign of the legendary king Celeus, who first founded a sanctuary to the goddess in Homeric tradition. The name of the town derives from the mythical hero Eleusis, whose father was Agygos, king of Thebes. In the 7th century BCE, Eleusis, always strategically important on the route to the Peloponnese, merged with Athens and became the deme of the tribe Phyle of Hippothontes. In the 6th century BCE, fortifications were constructed to enclose the Acris Hill and sanctuary of Demeter and Persephone, Kore. The fortress was, along with Panacton and Phyle, one of the most important fortresses in Attica. There was also an important theater of Dionysus constructed at the site. The most important festival at Eleusis was the annual Mysteries, which were famed throughout the Greek world, and c. 600 BCE they became an official ceremony in the Athenian calendar. Solon also aggrandized the site, adding a new temple, the Telesterion, also known as the Solonian or Anactoron for the inner, most sacred room, and enlarging the sacred precinct. During the reign of Pisistratus, 555–10 BCE, Eleusis benefited from the Pisistraton fortification wall with towers and a much larger telesterion to better accommodate the ever-growing numbers of initiates to the mysteries. The site was destroyed during the Persian invasion of 479 BCE, but rebuilt under Cimon. Another round of rebuilding was carried out in the 5th century BCE under Pericles, allowing Eleusis to boast the largest building in Greece when the Telesterion was rebuilt on an even bigger scale. Escaping any damage during the Peloponnesian War, the site was again expanded c. 360 BCE, which necessitated a larger protective wall, the Lycurgan Wall. At the same time, the 6th century BCE Plutonian building was replaced by a larger structure, and the portico of Philo added. Besides the mysteries, see more below. Other important festivals at Eleusis during the Archaic and Classical periods included the Eleusinian, an important biannual games where the prizes were sacred grain, the Smophoria, an all-female autumn festival in honor of Demeter when pigs were thrown into pits and left to putrefy. Their remains were then mixed with seeds before sowing. Haloa, another largely all-female winter festival in honor of Demeter and Dionysus, Calamea, and the Pro-Erosia. In Hellenistic times, a Macedonian garrison was stationed at Eleusis, and the Romans, starting with Hadrian, revamped the sanctuary from the early 2nd century CE and added a triumphal arch. Disaster struck when the Eleusinian was destroyed in 170 CE by the Kostoboks. The temple was rebuilt during the reign of Marcus Aurelius, 161–180 CE, and the Roman emperor also oversaw the construction of a monumental gate, an exact copy of the propylaea of the Athenian Acropolis. Other Roman additions included a gymnasium, hostels, and baths. The sanctuary's fortunes declined significantly following the decree of Theodosius I to close down all pagan sites in 379 CE, and Eleusis was destroyed around 395 CE following the invasion of the Visigoths. The town continued to exist for a few more centuries, but the glory days when she enjoyed Pan-Hellenic stature were never to be regained. The Eleusinian Mysteries. The famous mysteries of Demeter and Persephone held at Eleusis are just that, a mystery, as the initiated were forbidden from revealing any of the details of the ceremonies involved. We know that from the 6th century BCE, the ceremonies were held twice a year. The first step in the initiation process was known as the Lesser Mysteries and held every spring. The more important Great Mysteries were held in the autumn over 9 days. Only Greeks could be initiated, although this was later expanded to include Roman citizens. We also know details of some of the outdoor activities and that ceremonies were held under torchlight. There was a procession led by the priestess of Demeter along the sacred way from Eleusis to the Agora of Athens, and another return procession led by a symbolic chariot of Iacchus. There were ritual and communal cleansing and purification ceremonies carried out in the sea at Phaleron, the representation or reenactment of the myths involving the two goddesses, animal sacrifices, pigs, and the interpretation of sacred texts by priests, the mystagogo. There was also probably drinking, music, dancing, and general revelry involved, as with many other such cults in Greek religion, as attested by pottery scenes of the rites which show initiates holding the Bacchus, or sacred rod. Closely associated with fertility and agriculture, the mysteries probably brought worshippers good fortune and the promise of a better afterlife. Archaeological remains. The site today is dominated by the large trapezoid Roman court, 56 x 54.5 meters, which has a marble slab paving and was the most important structure at the site, the Eleusinian. First built in Mycenaean times, the building was rebuilt many times. Today's remains date to the 5th century BCE in plan and later Roman modifications following the destructive fire in 170 CE. We know that there were 6 entrances, a portico and 14-column stoa, and the upper floor originally had 42 columns. The encircling 8 tiers of seats and column bases survived to give a good idea of the original floor plan. The greater propylaea of Eleusis was a copy of the central portion of the monumental entrance to the Acropolis of Athens. On the south side of the sanctuary, it had 5 doorways and was the main entrance. It had a flight of 6 steps leading to 2 porches, with a facade of 6 Doric columns on each side, and an inner vestibule with 6 Ionic columns. Decoration was provided via a frieze of triglyphs and metopes, and a pediment showing the bust of an emperor, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, or Marcus Aurelius, but too weather-worn to identify with certainty, which can still be seen at the site. Only the foundations and restored parts of the 10-column portico remain of the northeast stoa. Some substantial pieces of the East Triumphal Arch, built using Pentelic marble, also survive, which was once 16 meters high, 4.85 meters wide, and a replica of Hadrian's Arch in Athens. Of the opposite arch on the western side, only the base and a few fragments remain. Foundations of other structures still present include the northwest stoa, 2 exedra, the Temple of Artemis and Poseidon, the outdoor altars of Artemis and Poseidon, storage rooms and silos, treasury buildings, and the polygonal stone Callicoron well. Parts of the Pisistraton wall also survive, showing foundations, a section of flat stones, a layer of polygonal blocks of blue-gray Eleusinian stone, and a top layer of bricks. Surviving art and sculpture from the site include relief panels showing Demeter and Persephone, clay votive plaques depicting rites from the mysteries, a 5th century BCE statue of a fleeing Persephone from the pediment of the sacred house, a caryatid from the Lesser Propylaea, a 2nd century CE life-size statue of Antinous, and a marble votive pig, all of which can be seen in the Eleusis Museum.